once that happened, I got bored. I need more. I need something else. I just told myself I had to do it. Sometimes you just got to allow other people to do the things that can give you the time to move forward. The quicker you let go, the faster you can grow. No reason to say no.
Yeah.
Keep saying yes and bring them in. I had to teach myself all that, and I learned a lot in the beginning.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us for another episode of the Lift Your Shop podcast. I'm Kelsey Austin with Lift Auto Repair Marketing. Today, we have an amazing guest, and we have Jason Rousseau out of Pro Automotive in the Dudley, Massachusetts area. So, Jason, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me on, Kelsey. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get to talk. Obviously, I know we've talked a bunch in the past before. I'm really excited to have you on the podcast, though, for the first time.
Yeah, it's taken a little while, about a month, but we finally got our schedules aligned.
Yeah, well, we had holidays come into play, we had illnesses come into play, but here
Yeah.
we are. We're finally here, finally live. So love to have you. So, but to get things kind of started for everyone, why don't you give us a little bit of a rundown in terms of how you got kind of introduced to the automotive industry?
Well, getting introduced to the automotive industry, wow, that's a long time ago. When I was really young, I guess. I was always a motorhead into taking things apart, putting them together, and to really get deep into the story, I guess. My dream was really to kind of go into the Air Force, and those dreams kind of got dashed a little bit when I was diagnosed being diabetic, and when I was 15 years old. So back then, Air Force didn't want you. It was like, no, you can go do something else. So I ended up getting a job at a local service station, pumping gas and selling cigarettes in a convenience store. And at nighttime, after that shift was over, I would actually stay in the garage and clean the shop for the guys, sweep the floors and just clean up their messes they were making every day.
Yeah.
Then once had a couple years there, the boss at the time said, "Hey, is this something you're interested in? Want to move forward with working on cars?" And I was like, "Yeah." I jumped all over it, and
Hmm.
it's been like 36 years, and here we are.
Very cool. That's an awesome start. And so did did you like how long did it take, I guess, from working in the shop? Did you from straight from there jump into now like owning your first one, or did you like start doing that off on the side at the same time? Or how did that all come to be?
I think every technician does side work, even when they're working for somebody. So I did a little bit of that,
Mhm.
dabbled into that. And I had an opportunity to potentially buy the place I was working at. And every time it came up, it just kind of got pushed off and pushed off and pushed off because I stayed at that same place for 23 years.
Wow.
Um, and finally, I just had enough. I said, you know what? I just got to do this on my own and just start up. And that's what I did. We did that in 2013 and started with one store in Dudley, and we added two more. We got three shops now and two more in Webster, next town over.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. So that your first shop then in Dudley, did you end up just buying a different store then, not the one that you're currently working at? Or did
Correct.
you, oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So how did you go into finding that one then to be like, yeah, this is going to be my first one that I start off?
Um, I just told myself I had to do it. A piece of a shop, actually, what was a shop at one time, had been closed for about 3, 4 years, and it had been empty. And I drove by one day, saw a for rent sign. Um, Turns out I knew who the owner was of the property, and we came up with a lease. And I just went in, just did it. Scared. I actually had a so my son was 5 at the time, and my daughter was 6 months old. Um, so it was a little
Yeah.
scary time, but we made it work.
Yeah, and I will say it's worked very well. How big was the first shop?
About 2,600 square feet.
Okay.
I started out there working totally by myself, did everything from scheduling the appointments to the bookkeeping at the end of the day. Um, Slowly hired my first tech after maybe 6 months and just took off from there. I told myself I'm not going to fail at this. I'm gonna succeed and keep going. Actually, I had a partner at the time when I first opened, and we went in 50-50. Um, didn't work out, didn't
Yep.
for very long at all.
Mhm.
I ended up having to buy him out. And that's when I told myself, I'm like, look, this is real now. I got to make this work.
Mhm.
And that's what we did.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm curious to dig into a little bit there because I know a lot of people have this kind of similar experience where they kind of start off as partners, and one thing or another has to give, and the other person buys the other person out. So
Yep.
what was that process like? Or like I guess to start the initial conversation, did it feel like maybe your partner just had his mindset in a different direction? I was like, okay, this is probably best for both of us, or well, how did that kind of come to be?
No, I guess my story might be a little bit unique. I got a letter from the IRS one day. Um, they put a lien on all the assets because he owed about a $500,000 in back taxes
Oh my goodness.
to another business that he owned, which I was unaware of,
Mhm.
and things went downhill pretty quickly after that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well,
So it was a battle, attorneys involved, appraisals involved. It wasn't fun.
yeah,
Wouldn't
well,
recommend it.
yeah,
Every time someone comes up to me and says, "Hey, they want to start something, a business or another shop," and they have a partner, I have a hard time of going, agreeing with that.
yeah. I mean, obviously it can work out for individuals, but
Sure,
there's just a
sure.
lot of trust that
It is.
I
It
think
it,
has
it
to be there beforehand, and like you just know that hey, there's going to be waves here in this relationship that we need to get over, and
100%. It's a marriage um, times 10.
mhm. So yes, you went through that hurdle, got through it. Things are obviously now the tunnel is looking bright. Bright.
Oh yeah.
There's an end
Yeah.
here. But so at what point then did you feel like did you were you with that your original shop and then decided that okay now I think it might be we're getting close to getting the next one.
It took 5 years.
Okay.
Took 5 years. Took me hiring three techs and a really, really good service manager. And I should say at each stage of hiring somebody, a manager, a bookkeeper, it was it was like pulling teeth for me because I'm very hard at letting go of certain things. Um, looking back at it, I wish I did a lot sooner.
Mhm.
The quicker you let go, the faster you can grow. Um, sometimes you just gotta allow other people to do the things that can give you the time to move forward.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So 5 years, um, hired a bunch of techs, bookkeeping, service manager that was able to run it, and I got it to the point where I didn't need to be there every day. Once that happened, I got bored, and I'm like, I need more. I need something else,
Yeah.
and that's when the second store came about and just took off.
Okay. Got it. Was there what I guess what revenue standpoint were you at the original first shop
What were
that
we doing? We were doing about 1.2 million a year at that
okay.
point.
Perfect. And then
Yeah.
in terms of then looking around, you found the second shop. Did you have like your first shop like kind of slightly overstaffed that you were able to then bring people over? Since I know it's just a town over, or were you kind of just like you bought an existing shop, you just took on that team that was there?
Yeah, so the second shop that I bought was a Meineke that went under. So
Mm,
it was an existing shop in town, but it had been closed for maybe like 6 months.
okay.
Um, and it was a very slow process from when I started talking to the individual to the day I opened. It was about a year and a half.
Oh wow.
Took a while because there was
Yeah.
banks involved,
Mhm.
place was being foreclosed on, and whatever. Um, so in that year and a half time frame, I overstaffed myself with
Mhm.
the knowing that I was going to need people.
Yeah.
Um, so I had a few extra technicians I was able to take with me, and they already knew our processes. They already knew how we do things, and I went in as the service manager initially in the beginning, um, and then hired a service manager about 3 months after.
Very cool. Awesome. And then so now we have the second one. Second one's humming
Second
along.
one's up, it's going. Of course, like anything, it's got its ups and downs.
Yep.
Our first month we kicked ass there, and I was so excited. I'm like, yeah, this is really gonna be good, and then it kind of went downhill a little bit. Um, but like the next 6 months, things got a little dicey. I got a little nervous. Um, Brought in some new people. It was staffing issues, people
Mm.
that just didn't see our vision.
Yep.
Um, so we brought in some new people and turned things around and came store number three, 3 years later.
Very cool. So what was then the I guess the time balance in terms of, so I know it sounded like the first shop was pretty ready, so you didn't really have to worry about it too much, but what was it like then, like officially, like I have two stores now? Like how often did you even check on the original, or how did you divvy up your time?
I was there every day. I will tell you this to anybody that's opening a second store, the second one's the hardest.
Hmm.
Everyone after that, it's just so much easier.
Yeah.
You know the steps, your processes are in place, you have handbooks, you have policies and procedures by then. It's just so much easier after the second one.
Gotcha. That's what made maybe the second one the hardest, is that there weren't really any processes in place for like a new store or anything like that, or
Yeah, I was definitely
what made it
lacking.
different?
We were definitely lacking in that aspect, which is probably why some of them employees didn't last.
Hmm. Gotcha. So then how did you go about making your processes? Like, were you you one yourself? You were writing things down? Did you have like the new manager start writing things down? How did that look to start
It
developing?
was actually myself and my previous service manager that was still over in Dudley.
Oh, okay.
We were doing a lot of note taking and a lot of writing things down. And then I found out about this program called Trainual.
Mm, yep.
Um, and we started documenting things in there and taking that to the next level. And we're still working on that today. That's a continuous thing.
Yeah, very cool. Is it all like kind of written Word documents? Do you have any videos that are also implemented in there?
Videos, documents, YouTube stuff. Yeah,
Very cool. That's awesome.
there's lots of things in there.
Very cool.
It's almost like an owner's manual for your shop. Think
Yeah.
about
Mhm.
it. And it's from everything from the technician working on the car to the person selling the work to the bookkeeper handling the finances. I think it's valuable when it's going to become time to sell or
Yep.
move on
Mhm.
because it's almost like handing the keys over and saying, "Here you go."
Yeah.
Yep.
As simple as that. Having something more organized, that's what someone wants to buy into, rather than something that's like, wait, I actually need that owner here to do
Yeah,
anything, and like that. That's not a business then. There
right.
was someone buying into a job.
Yep,
And so,
exactly. Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a difference there. There's lots of businesses that are sold and it's somebody just buying themselves another job. And
Mhm.
then there's businesses that are sold and then you're buying yourself an investment.
Yep.
Well, I want to sell my business as an investment, not as a job to somebody.
Perfect. And I think it's easier to sell at a higher multiple
Sure.
in situations,
Absolutely.
for those individuals too. Oh, great. Then the third store, obviously the much easier, much different in terms of that transition. So how long did that third store then take to get kind of humming along and rolling?
So 3 years later, we it was a gentleman who was retiring,
Mm.
same town. Um, he approached me. Um, he's like, yeah, I've been doing this, and we actually worked together at that my first job there that I
Uh-huh.
had. Me and him had worked together for about a year. When my first year there, he was there as a technician,
Oh, very cool.
and then he moved on and worked at a couple of different places, and then opened up this other shop. So we had a little bit of friendship. So he came to me and said, "Hey, look, I'm ready to retire. I know you're looking to expand. You've done great with your other two shops. I like your your business model, and give me an offer." That's how it started. Um, he had his staff. Obviously, this was the third shop. I was buying an existing running business.
Yep.
Um, there's definitely some different challenges with that, especially with these existing staff.
Mhm.
Now you're going to take on this staff that doesn't know your policies and procedures and the way you do things, and some of them like it, some of them don't.
Yep.
Um, and then you also got your clients, your customers. Some of them customers aren't your customers. You don't want them. Some of them you really want to keep. Um, so there was some challenges there. Um, that store probably took a good year before it really took off. I mean, it sustained itself, during
Yep.
that time. Um, but it took a good year to get the clients base to where we wanted it to make it successful as where it is today.
Yeah, no, definitely. And so how far apart are all your shops?
They're pretty close, actually. They're all within about a 3.5, 4 mile radius of each other.
Gotcha. So
In
they're
a very small town
mhm,
of well, Webster, where the two shops are, have about 16,000 people.
mhm.
Dudley, the next town over, where my first shop is, has 12,000 people.
Very cool.
We're not like in a big city.
Gotcha. So then what has been your best tactic of finding so much success, especially with the shops being so close to each other? Because I know I've heard people, like people have brought up and asked me like, oh, how far away should my shop, like I'm kind of looking at my next shop and how far away should it be? Or, and in terms of like keeping the brand also or keeping the old brand, like, so but what, like, I mean, obviously you took the strategy of like, yeah, this is the opportunity. Yes, it's kind of close and you went for it, but what, I guess, helped you make that work?
Our other Webster store was at capacity. We couldn't do
Mhm.
no more.
Yep.
Um, so we were kind of pushing some work to my Dudley location.
Mhm.
They were close to at capacity at the
Yeah.
time. And I'm like, well, no reason to say no.
Yeah.
Keep saying yes and bring them in. Um, and in my mind, okay, I'm gonna also purchase this third shop that already has a customer database that's not ours customers, so
Yep.
we could potentially take those on. And then we did have some struggles because again, like I said, some of those clients were not our ultimate clients that we wanted to keep. So that's actually when we found you and you guys started doing our Google ads, and that just turned things right around for us.
Well, I appreciate that. I wasn't expecting any sort of plug or anything like that. But yeah, I think when people have multiple locations that are close together, it's really important to understand where your target customer should be for each location. So I think that's a lot of people don't even think they just like, I'm just going to get a new location and I'll worry about that all when it comes to be. But you absolutely want to have a plan, especially when you're talking about distance that's close apart with your locations.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you got a shop that is not at you need to know what your capacity is.
Mhm. Yep.
Once you know what your capacity is, and you know you've either obtained it and you can't go no further, well then why not open up another one right next door,
Yep.
across the street? I mean, what's stopping you at that point?
Yep. Exactly. So I think yeah, the fear, like for me, I always recommend like let's create some space so then that way there's not too much cannibalization of like customers, so that we can have a clean radius kind of around each store. But in no shape or form is every shop that comes your way going to be the oh yep is in the perfect spot that I've been
Yep,
planning on. I'm not saying like oh and you need to look at this exact little spot. No, there's different things that you just need to make sure you're planning and preparing
sure.
for it, and understanding your capacity. So for you, and knowing the capacity of the shop, like what did that look like? Was it a certain like financial revenue number? Was it a certain car count that you were just like, yep, this is what it was, and then how
Oh,
did you go about figuring that out?
it's everything together. I mean, you
Yeah.
should be able to generate X amount of dollars per day. You should be able to get so many cars in and out of the shop in whatever your hours that you're open, hours of operation. Um, how many hours the shop in total is turning. If you got 5 days and you got five techs, and you're open 8 to 5, there's no reason why you can't turn 10 hours per day
Mhm.
at a minimum.
Yep.
And if you're there and that's what you're doing for every day you're open and you're saying no, then time to move.
Yeah, no, definitely. And so what, I guess, what is that? Are there specific numbers that you kind of have set almost as a KPI for yourself of each like bay per se or each tech? Like what does that look like for you if we can dig in a little bit deeper into like
Sure.
how
So
sorry.
as far as per tech, like I said just a few seconds ago here, minimum of 10 hours a day.
Mhm.
Um, then obviously whatever your effective labor rate is, you can do the math from there and figure out how many labor dollars you should be generating. And then you can figure it out by the month if you want,
Yep,
and just to make sure you're meeting those minimums.
definitely. And what I mean, what is a good effective labor rate in your opinion?
In my opinion,
No.
within 10% of your door rate.
Yep.
So if you simple numbers, if you're $100 an hour, you should be getting at least 90.
Mhm. Makes sense.
And
Perfect.
hopefully you're more than $100 an hour.
Yes, definitely. It should definitely be well past that amount. But yeah, thank you for the simple numbers there. Um, yeah. So then, in terms of financial, so I know you're a big financial guy and understanding the P&L. I guess what got you first into realizing that like understanding the financials and P&Ls were so important for having a successful business.
Yeah, so I mean, I love numbers. I always have, even though I've always been mechanically inclined, I guess.
Uh,
And then when I went into business for myself, I had to teach myself all that. Um, and I learned a lot in the beginning, a lot. Um, but again, like I said in the beginning, I told myself I was going to do this. I wasn't going to fail. So I had multiple meetings with accountants, other business owners, just teaching me every little piece of how to read your P&L, how to read your balance sheet. A lot of people don't even know what a balance sheet is. Um, the balance sheet is really the brains of the business. The P&L I think of as almost like the heartbeat. It's pumping in the dollars, but the brains, which is the balance sheet, are telling it where to go.
mhm.
Um, so really understanding a balance sheet and knowing that there's potential there and room to grow. That's really what told me, okay, it was time to move, time to keep going.
Gotcha. So I'm curious, what levers of the balance sheet do you kind of particularly look at that help you understand which way to go or not?
Sure. So your retained earnings.
Hmm.
If you got a lot of retained earnings, no, what are you sitting on them for? You might as well use them and have them generate more.
Yep.
Um, obviously, your
And,
total
and,
assets.
and then to take a step back for those that maybe don't understand what retained
Sure.
earnings are, like what are the retained earnings at the shop?
So if at the end of the year you have a net income, I'll use simple numbers again.
Yep.
If you have $100,000 left over at the end of the year, um, that's your net income. At the beginning of the next year, it becomes retained earnings for the next year, and then your P&L starts all over again.
Yep.
Um, a lot of guys or a lot of people I see because I look at other people's financials quite often, and a lot of people take from it. They don't leave a lot of money in the business. They just take it. They maybe have a lot of toys, maybe have a boat, maybe have a Ferrari or something somewhere, but whatever. But I like to leave a lot of money in my business. I think it's better to reinvest. Um, it's just kept us healthy over the years.
Yep. Definitely playing a lot.
And it helped us out during the wonderful year of 2020 during the we don't want to talk about that part of the yeah.
Definitely not. But yeah, sorry to cut you off there in terms of like just digging deeper into return earnings. I think a lot of people maybe had the first time they even heard that term, like return, what even was it? So I appreciate you kind of describing what that means. And so then you mentioned then also the next step, I think you said total
Total
assets. What is that
assets,
kind
yeah. I mean, what do you got for equipment? What do you got for property? What do you got? Um, what do you have for cash that's available to just because you have retained earnings doesn't mean you have the cash there
yeah.
to take. So all those things play together to give yourself a good, financial, I don't know how you want to say it, but health, I guess.
Yeah, literacy or
Yeah, sure,
yeah, just understanding that portion. Because yeah, the better that you understand that side of things, it allows you to better be able to invest to be prepared to like get another shop and like
sure.
having your ducks in a row and being ready there. And so I'm curious. And then so obviously the second shop was one that was kind of foreclosed and you went through that process. And the third one was an existing business. How did you personally go about evaluating like yeah, that price point makes sense, or was there like, oh yeah, you had to go over budgets or under budget, or what did that kind of look like? I'll start with the second one in terms of like,
So the second one was, I mean, the only thing I bought was property.
okay,
So, and it was foreclosed.
yep,
So it was way under what it was worth. It was a no-brainer. Didn't
yep,
take much thought. I couldn't say no. The third one was a little different. We looked at the 3-year prior tax returns, the current year's financials. We did a net recast. If you don't know what a net recast is, it's taking the profits from the shop and taking out, it's called EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, and amortization. Um, and then you come up with a multiplier based on what you have to do. You have to replace the owner. Is the owner does he work in the business every day? Is he absentee owner? And then you come up with a multiplier based on that number and gives you a roundabout valuation of what you should be paying.
Gotcha. So what sort of multiplier were you kind of shooting for in that?
So with mine, the owner he was a technician. He was there every day. He was
Yep.
doing almost everything. So I was around a two times multiplier with him.
Gotcha.
And
That's
he learned a lot actually going through selling his business and how he could have done things different to make himself a lot more money. And that was really taking himself off the floor and letting the place run by itself.
Yep. And then so, but theoretically, if he was an absentee owner, say it was built similar to the businesses that you're currently building,
Sure.
and the shops, what sort of multiplier then would someone potentially be able to expect or shoot for?
Maybe three, four, five. There's a lot of other factors that probably play
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah.
Location,
Exactly.
um, profitability. Who knows? There's a lot of different things that could change that. But yeah, between 3 and 5 time multipliers for an
Yeah.
absentee owner.
Okay, that's very good knowledge points. I hope everyone is still listening and jotting things. There's like regardless of where you are in the stage of your path in the business, whether you're at the latter end and you're like this is real, like this is very important to understand the numbers, or you're in the very beginning and building out your business. Regardless, it's really important to understand kind of what your business can be valued at, because at the end of the day you're selling to somebody, whether
Yep,
it's external or internal, whether it's a family member or whatever it may be. Like you're selling to someone, so you want to set it up in a position to be as valuable as possible
absolutely.
for yourself. So awesome. And then obviously we're like kind of in the nitty gritty of tax season. Like the year just
Yeah.
ended, and then we're looking at all of that. I kind of, and I know obviously you like the numbers and what are kind of not that we're giving tax advice, please seek out tax
No.
advisors.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what are kind of like some of your go-to strategies that maybe other people don't think about or that you always come to
I
realize?
I see a lot of other people that I maybe give some advice to, um, is that they don't count their inventory. That some of them don't even realize that it's on their balance sheet, and their inventory numbers way off of what's actually physically in the shop. And if your inventory number is higher, you're paying taxes on that number.
Yeah.
It's so important to just count, be honest, what you got in the shop, and make sure that number matches what's on your balance sheet. Um, because that is ultimately it's an asset, and you're paying taxes on that asset.
Mm. Yeah. And so are you physically the person that goes in and counts it to make sure
I
it's right?
am actually. I am.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. We do a good job of maintaining it over the year.
Yeah.
We do counts like once a month just
Gotcha.
to make
Okay.
sure we're in the ballpark. But then that's actually what I did this year. January 1st, it was a Monday. Took the whole day, went to every shop,
Oh
counted all the
man.
inventory, and
Happy New Year.
you'd be surprised how far off it can be and how much money you can save on just making sure that number's right.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, yeah, that sounds like a long New Year's Day.
Yeah.
For those that have multiple shops, I would recommend spreading it out over multiple
Hey, you
days.
can hire somebody to do it too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you definitely do this well. But I think yeah, I like the importance of I think doing it once is very important to be able to be hands-on and understanding like in real time the ins and outs. At least like even if you don't personally know how to do it, being there with the person that is physically counting as well, just to understand that process. And so then that way throughout the year you can see where holes can be filled because you don't
Yep.
want to again be at the end of the year and you're like holy mo like this is nowhere close to like what I expected the inventory to be because like you just had all these mistakes throughout each month, but then kind of just snowballed into this big
Yep.
mess at the very end. So yeah, again, very good recommendation there for individuals thinking about that process. In terms of the process of like acquisition or on the flip side for selling, like what's the typical length of time that is taking for people? Some people think it's like, oh, I just tell someone to sell it. Here it is, it's done, and it's very quick. But I assume it's not the case. So
No,
what
no.
would people expect there?
From the time I started talking to the owner of the third shop to the time we actually closed was like 7 months.
Mm,
But we took our time too. We
yeah.
probably could have done it quicker. Um, he wanted to retire, but at the same time, he was having a hard time letting go,
Hmm.
which I understood. He had that shop he had actually bought from somebody else. So this shop had been in business for about like 30 years, and he had owned it for the past 10. So there was some emotions there for him.
Yep.
Him and his wife they were there every day. So yeah, so we took our time. I would say if somebody really wants to sell and it's listed and ready to go, it could probably happen as quick as a couple months.
Gotcha. Okay. And then the negotiation portion of it, was there a pretty solid back and forth? Like I'm always assuming this person that's selling is,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
they say, oh yeah, my business is worth way more than what's being offered. But how did that come to be in terms of like trickling it down and meeting like, hey, yeah, no, this is actually where it should be.
Yeah, the negotiations as far as the real estate went were pretty simple.
Okay.
Just did a simple appraisal and um, came up with a number that we were happy with. But when it came to the business, that's where he got a reality check. Um, and like I said earlier, that's where he learned a lot too.
Hmm.
He wishes he had done things different. But it was important that I educated him on that
Yeah.
and told him, hey, this is what I'm willing to pay. It's only worth what someone's willing to pay. So, you told me you had somebody else interested before and they walked. So,
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's a very good statement there. That it's only worth like again, we have these numbers in our mind in terms of like, yeah, okay, on EBITDA is this is the multiplier and whatnot. So this is what it should be. But if the person's not willing to pay and you have one person that's willing to pay, it's worth what they say that it is, unless you just hold out and wait and say, no, I want to find a different buyer. But yeah, we were talking about in terms of like it's worth what the buyer
sure,
is
sure.
willing to.
Yeah, like I was saying, if your price point's up too high, of course it's going to take you forever to sell.
Yeah.
I mean, I see business listings that are up there for years. It's like,
Hmm.
why is it, a landscaping company? Well, there's nobody interested in buying landscaping companies, or you just want too much for it. They probably just want too much for it.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's
Yeah, I think it's no different than real estate. Just you're buying a house, you gotta
yeah.
market it properly, but you also need to have it be realistic.
Yeah, no, definitely. So would you recommend to people like leveraging a broker of some kind to do it, or is it very easily capable to leverage yourself?
It was pretty easy to do
Yeah,
yourself. Yeah,
yeah.
you need a good attorney behind you too.
Yes, I think that's
Yeah,
also one thing that people definitely don't think about. Like when
yeah,
it
the
comes to
legal
documentation of
legal
selling or
compliance.
buying a business, yeah, you
Yeah,
want someone else to read that. It's not just like, oh yeah, I've done this before. I want to mark everything
yeah,
in the
yeah.
show.
No, no.
Definitely don't want that to take place. Well, awesome. I think we've hit on a lot of amazing topics as we've gone through this, and so I'm very appreciative of the knowledge you've been able to share. But what do you think is the maybe the one biggest piece, like the learning piece that you've had through this journey of now having three shops, more than likely more down the road? Like, what has been like the biggest thing that you've been like, yeah, learning this piece has helped me a ton.
Wow, that's a good one. I would say that buying the third shop was eye-opening as far as I, I don't know if I'd buy an existing business again. Only because of the struggles I went through with the previous employees. They again, after 6 months, they were all gone. I had all new staff. Same thing with the clients that were going there. Well, they weren't really our clients. They weren't the type of clients would want. Anyway,
Mhm.
we dealt with them and we made it work. Um, but if you're going to buy an existing shop, it needs to really be similar to what you're currently used to operating,
Mhm.
or start ground up.
Yeah, I think that's another option, or at least if you're buying an existing, I mean, I think you definitely need to have the process down in terms of like employment and being prepared in reality to like I might need to hire every single person new,
Yep.
like
Yep.
in a short
Yeah.
time window.
Yeah. How can I buy this place? Bring in all new clients and replace all the staff. If you can answer all them questions and you can do it, then yeah, great. But if you don't think you can replace everybody and bring in all new customers, clients, whatever you want to call them, then you're gonna have struggles.
Definitely. Well, perfect. Well, thank you so much again, Jason, for your time today and your knowledge. For those that maybe are still listening and they're like, hey, this story really resonates with me, or they have some more maybe particular questions that they want to have offline with you, what would be the best ways to reach you?
They can find me on Facebook,
Okay.
or send me an email, jason@proautomotivema.com. I love helping people, love talking to people, so anytime.
Yeah, and I highly recommend for those that are listening to definitely reach out to Jason. He is a wealth of knowledge. I know we didn't even touch on probably all the points that he definitely knows more and more about, but hopefully you guys all did find this very valuable. I thank you all for listening. If you haven't liked or subscribed yet to the channel, please go ahead and do so. But we'll talk to you guys again next time. Thank you. Bye.
See you.